The Empire had ruled the galaxy for over 60,000 years. Their bodies did not age. Their cells repaired themselves endlessly. Death was a choice for them, not a certainty. They had conquered 1,000 worlds, absorbed hundreds of species into their empire, and never once faced a real challenge. War to the was a slow game of patience. They would surround a planet, wait for decades if needed, and slowly drain the enemy of resources until surrender became the only option. Time was their greatest weapon because they had infinite amounts of it. Commander stood on the observation deck of his flagship, the Eternal Silence. He watched the small blue planet rotating slowly in the darkness of space. Earth. The humans called it Earth. His intelligence officers had given him reports about this species. They lived for less than 100 years. Most died before reaching even that small number. They were fragile creatures made of soft flesh and brittle bones. Felt something close to pity. These beings had built cities, created art, and reached for the stars, all while knowing they would die before seeing the results of their work. It seemed like a cruel joke of the universe. He almost admired them for trying at all. The invasion began at dawn over the human capital cities. Drop ships descended through the clouds like silver rain. Expected panic. He expected chaos. He expected the humans to scatter like frightened animals. What he got was silence, then fire. The first wave of soldiers touched down in a city called Moscow. They moved slowly and carefully as they always did. There was no rush. They had centuries to complete this conquest if needed. The squad leader, a soldier named who had fought in over 200 campaigns across 5,000 years, stepped forward to scan the empty streets. A single bullet struck him in the chest. His armor absorbed most of the impact, but the force pushed him backward. Before he could react, 3 more bullets hit him. Then 10. Then 100. The humans were everywhere, firing from windows, rooftops, and underground tunnels. They moved with a speed that had never seen in any species. He tried to raise his weapon, but a human soldier was already there. The creature was young, maybe 20 years old in human time. That meant this being had existed for less time than had spent sleeping on a single journey between star systems. Yet the human moved like water flowing downhill, fast and unstoppable. The human threw something small and metal, recognized it as an explosive device. He had time to move. He had centuries of combat experience. But by the time his ancient mind processed the threat, the device had already exploded. On the flagship, received reports from across the planet. His forces were being destroyed. Not slowly, not through attrition, but quickly. The humans attacked in coordinated waves that lasted minutes, sometimes seconds. They would strike hard, cause maximum damage, and disappear before they could respond. Called for his senior strategist, an old soldier named who had helped conquer dozens of worlds. Studied the battle data with growing confusion. The human tactics made no sense to him. They exposed themselves to danger constantly. They took risks that no sensible species would take. Individual soldiers would charge directly at positions, knowing they would likely die, just to give their companions a few extra seconds of advantage. One recording showed a human pilot flying his damaged aircraft directly into a command ship. The pilot was young, with a photograph of a woman and small children visible in his cockpit. He was smiling as he made his final approach. The explosion destroyed both the aircraft and the command ship, killing over 300 officers. Had seen suicide attacks before. Other species used them when they were desperate, when all hope was lost. But this human had options. He could have retreated. He could have lived for another 50 years. Instead, he chose to spend his few remaining seconds creating the biggest impact possible. The ground war continued for 6 days. Each day, they lost more soldiers than they had lost in the previous 1,000 years combined. The humans never stopped moving. They attacked at night when they expected them to rest. They attacked during meals, during storms, during earthquakes. They seemed to have no concept of waiting for the right moment because to them, Every moment was the right moment. A general named captured a group of human soldiers during a battle in a place called Kiev. He questioned them, trying to understand their strategy. The humans confused him. They laughed at death. They made jokes about their wounds. One soldier, bleeding heavily from a leg injury, spent his final minutes teaching crude songs to his companions. Asked the human commander, a woman named Colonel, why her species fought with such reckless intensity. Colonel looked at him with eyes that held no fear. She told him that humans had always known they would die. Every human who ever lived knew that their time was limited. This knowledge did not make them weak. It made them fierce. Every second of their lives mattered because they had so few of them. She explained that fought like they had forever. They were careful. They were patient. They preserved themselves at every opportunity. Humans could not afford to think that way. A human soldier who hesitated for 1 second might lose 10% of his remaining life in that hesitation. A human who waited for tomorrow to act might not have a tomorrow. Did not understand at first. He had existed for 12,000 years. 1 second meant nothing to him. But then Colonel asked him a question that changed everything. She asked him how many seconds he had spent truly alive. How many moments could he remember with perfect clarity? How many times had he felt the fire of passion or the ice of fear? How many times had he loved something so completely that he would die to protect it? Could not answer. His memories blurred together across. He could not remember the face of his first companion or the name of the first world he conquered. Time had washed these things away like rain washing away footprints in sand. Colonel smiled at his silence. She told him that she remembered every important moment of her life. She remembered her first kiss, her wedding day, the birth of her children, and the death of her father. She remembered them because each one was precious. Each one was irreplaceable. Each one was a treasure she carried in her heart. Her species did not fear death, she explained. They feared wasting life. Every human child grew up knowing they had limited time. This knowledge was not a burden. It was a gift. It taught them to love deeply, fight fiercely, and live completely. They had conquered the galaxy because they could outlast any enemy. But humans did not fight to outlast. They fought to outburn. They compressed 1,000 years of fury into a single moment and released it like a star-going supernova. On the 8th day of the invasion, made a decision that no commander had made in 30,000 years. He ordered a retreat. His officers were shocked. They had never lost a war. Their empire had never been defeated, but had studied the numbers. The humans were killing his soldiers at a rate that would exhaust his entire invasion force within 2 months, and the humans showed no signs of slowing down. If anything, they were fighting harder each day. More importantly, had begun to understand something that frightened him deeply. They were not truly alive. They existed, yes. They continued, but they did not burn. They had traded passion for permanence, and in doing so, they had lost something essential. The humans had reminded him what it meant to be truly alive. Every human he watched in battle was a supernova of emotion and action. They cried, they laughed, they screamed, they loved, and they fought with every fiber of their being. Their lives were short flames, but those flames burned brighter than any sun. As the fleet departed Earth's orbit, transmitted a message to the human governments. He told them that the empire would not return. He told them that their world would be left in peace. And he told them something that no had ever said to another species. He told them that they had spent 60,000 years searching for meaning in their endless existence. They had conquered worlds and gathered treasures and accumulated knowledge beyond measure. Yet they had never found what they were looking for. The humans, with their brief and burning lives, had already found it. They had found it in the faces of their children, in the touch of their lovers, in the beauty of their sunsets, and in the fury of their battles. They made every second count because they understood the truth that they had forgotten. Life was not measured in years. It was measured in moments that took your breath away. Colonel read the message to her surviving soldiers as they stood among the ruins of their city. Some of them cried. Some of them cheered. One old sergeant simply nodded and lit a cigarette. He had maybe 20 years left to live. 20 years of sunsets and laughter and cold beer and warm beds. It was more than enough. Across the galaxy, the news of the human victory spread like wildfire. Other species, long conquered by began to whisper about rebellion. If the short-lived humans could defeat the immortals, then perhaps mortality was not a weakness after all. Perhaps it was the greatest strength of all. Commander spent the long journey home thinking about the human colonel's words. He had lived for 15,000 years, and he could not remember the last time he had truly felt alive. His immortal heart had grown cold and slow, beating only out of habit rather than passion. He wondered if it was too late for him to change. He wondered if an immortal could learn to live like a mortal. He wondered if he could ever learn to make every second count. The stars rolled past his window, ancient and eternal and utterly indifferent. Somewhere behind him, on a small blue planet, humans were rebuilding their cities and burying their dead and holding their children and making love and making war and making every single second burn like a star. Smiled for the first time in 300 years. He had finally found something worth living for. He had found a species worth respecting. And he had learned a lesson that all the wisdom of his ancient empire had never taught him. The shortest lives burned and in the end, brightness mattered more than length.